Hi there, Karen Friedland here, and I finally got on for this Facebook Live, and I'm trying a new approach by having it, shooting it from my computer. And so for now, you'll be able to see my face, and then when we get to work on the art, I'll angle it down and you'll only see from about there. Well, the head doesn't matter much anyhow. I hope some of you are out there, so please say hello. I'm doing it this way because I can see what people are typing in to me and who's here, and I'm excited about that. So, as you're typing, I'll just take a sip of my coffee. I've already had a busy Friday because I went and delivered 3 paintings to be on exhibit for 3 months, which is really long, but that's how much they wanted them, at the brand new offices of Assemblywoman Rodneyce Bichotte. And she's Assemblywoman in New York for the 45th District, which is where I live. And her office is having a reception for the art and for their new office. And it's going to be this coming Wednesday on the 15th from noon to 8. But in there's going to be an artist reception, I would guess somewhere in the 5 or 6 range, but they haven't told us yet. So her office is at 1312 Flatbush Avenue, which is right at Foster. So if you are in the New York area and would like to come over and see my work, it's the first time I'm showing in public my great big elephant painting called Elephant Vision, and I'm really excited about it. The painting is 5 feet wide and 4 feet deep. 4 feet deep that way. Okay, everything's reversed when you look at it on the screen. Anyhow, it's a really big painting, and it's so big that it doesn't qualify to be entered in a lot of shows or to be shown in a lot of spaces. So I'm really excited that they're going to hang that. Hi, Allison. Nice to see you here. How are things in Scotland? Um, and so if you're in the vicinity, please come on Wednesday to her office and see my artwork. And I think there's a couple of other artists who will be showing. So today I wanted to talk to you about gesso. Gesso is something that I use a lot of. Here's my bottle. I get it by the quart from Liquitex. I like Liquitex. You can get Golden. You can get almost any brand. The one thing I would suggest is that you not get one of the student grade gessos because they are thin and don't work really well. So for gesso, spring for the extra money and get the big name brands. So gesso is a flexible liquid ground that is really a bridge between your paint that you put on your canvas or paper and the surface of that you're painting on. So that's your canvas or your paper or wood or anything else that you would paint on. You can use gesso, and it's the bridge between the two, and it makes the paint adhere to the surface. It's modern gesso, which is very different from traditional gesso that, you know, the ancient masters used, not ancient, but the old masters used. It's made of calcium carbonate and acrylic polymer medium, which is, you know, the regular acrylic medium. So the calcium carbonate and whatever other chemicals they throw in there makes a film so that it is thick and blocks things from being from showing through. So it's really handy, and I use it in some unconventional ways, so I thought I'd show them to you today. Hi, Diane. I'm so glad you're here. So I we'll be painting them in a couple of minutes, but to do the demonstration, I thought I would show you on green paper so that the white will show up. And one of my favorite ways to use it is I'll pour it right out of the bottle, and I make blobs on my paper. And anytime you have gesso on your surface, it will take paint differently from the surface all by itself. So you'll be able to see a very subtle change in the way it looks. And oh, I said I would angle this down so you could see what I was painting on. So the first thing I did was just put blobs on there. The second thing I wanted to show you was a lot of times I'll take my blobs and I'll spread them out a little bit. I'm just going to do a couple, get some more gesso on my paper. And I spread them out a bit, and then I will press. I leave it a little thick, but not real thick, because gesso is still liquidy and it won't really hold fine shapes, but it will hold some shapes. So then I have a whole bevy of things that I use to press into it. Here you see I've used the bottom of this container, and I press into that. And I use all sorts of things that I have around the studio and around the house. I might use lids. I might use, I take a lot of room keys from hotels and I use them. I cut V's in them so they become combs, and I use them to comb through. And so you can get a pattern like that. And I might use a rubber stamp or a brayer. You can spread it out with the brayer and make interesting marks in it. You can use a sponge, press a sponge into it, and you can press a stencil into it. I love using this bubble wrap, really works really well, and I love using this as shelf liner. So I'd love to use this, and with something like this, I'll press into the gesso and make sure that it's made good contact. And when I lift it up, I get some bubbles, but we can take care of that. But then you can press it down again and basically print with it. So you have it in two different ways on your paper. So here we go. And it's come through. There it's come through with as circles. Very strange. Never know what you're going to get. You can make marks in it with the straw. You can make lines. I'm going to use it to kind of get rid of some of these bubbles here. And when you paint your work, it will come up with different, it'll show up in different ways. The next way that I love to use, this is one of the things I love to do with it, is I love to put out enough and then write in it. So you can do it as a subtle message. You can put your signature in it. You can put your theme in it. And what I use to do this with, I could use my palette knife here, or I could use the back of a paintbrush, like here, the handle of a paintbrush. But I really love to use these color shapers, which if you haven't seen them before, they've got rubber tip and they're different shaped ends, and you usually get them in a package of 6. They're a little pricey, but I find I use them a whole lot for a lot of different things. So I'm really happy to be here with you today. So that's what I'm going to write in my gesso right here. And so you can see my message to you that I'm happy. And then let's see. Oh, and then the last way I want to show you is a really cool thing also. And let me get some more gesso on here. And I'll spread it out. And I know I needed an extra piece of paper, and I forgot to get it because I didn't remember what it was for. But I will take it right now. Pardon my improvising. So I spread out some gesso and I press a piece of paper into it. And depending how you lift it up, whether it's fast or slow or which direction you pick it up from, it will give you a different pattern on there. I don't know if you can see it. I'm going to hold it up in a second, but then I can take this paper and press it down and print with it. I really love doing printing of all sorts, and this is just one more way I get to do printing. So I don't know, let's see if we can see it up there. Are you able to see that at all? I'm gonna try angling this light a little bit more this way so it shines more directly. And if you see the kind of veining in the gesso, you can see it over here, I think. Okay, so these are the techniques I wanted to show you today real quick. And so once we have them, and here I have them dry, I wonder if you can see them a little bit more easily with their being dry. This one in particular. Can you see that one? Anyhow, here they are dry. And I did that yesterday because when it's thick, it'll take a while to dry. It's not like as fast as acrylic paint. And the thinner you put it on, the faster it'll dry. But I did do, I wanted to tell you guys that this project is out of my Art Sparks Creative Project card deck, which if you haven't seen it, you get my art on one side and then a whole bunch of creative projects to do on the other side. And this one is number 7. So if you wanted to follow along with your Art Sparks cards, this is card number 7, talking about gesso. And here I've got the dried version, and I did it on white paper, so we'll be able to see it. And I'm going to just mist my paint a little bit more so they're fluid. And I'm using watercolor paint, but you could use acrylic paint and thin it down. And I'll show you, we want it to get to a pretty thin consistency, kind of watery consistency. We'll see how this does. But I want to get some paint on it so we can see what the effect will be. And here I've got a light blue paint, and you'll see that the paint, these are my blobs, that here the paint is hardly sticking at all to the acrylic, to the gesso. but it does, of course, stick to the paper. So right away you get whatever kind of polka dotty texture you might like out of that. I'm going to give it another go with the paint. If this were acrylic paint, it would be sticking to them, to the gesso more easily. Now the next thing we go to are the different patterns that I pressed into the gesso, and let's see how they come out. I've made the paint a little darker this time, a little thicker. And so here you really start seeing a lot of the patterns coming through. And I like the way that looks. I did some combing with the card down here, and some of it, other texture making. As you can see, you can't get really accurate textures, but you can get things that give some variety on your page for you. And so that's always nice to see. And then I think we'll go on to see what my theme of the day, happy, looks like when we paint over it. And I don't know why this paint is getting so sudsy, but it is doing that. But you can see the word pretty succinctly when I go over it with the paint, but it's subtle enough that if you wanted it as a background kind of thing, an underlying message to the viewers of your painting or in your art journal, it's pretty subtle, and you don't really know it's there unless you go looking for it. And then the last one was doing the sheet and pulling it away. And I also have over here, down here, I have the printed pattern from the shelf liner. I printed it down here, and you can start seeing it over there. And I don't know if we'll see those pressed in patterns very well. Oh, they're starting to come up now. And they're pretty subtle, but they're rather beautiful. And if you were doing something that was any kind of landscape or the like, they would be beautiful background for grasses or something of that sort. I wonder if I go darker, if it'll be easier to see them. And these are all techniques that I hope you'll play around with. Here, now you can see it coming up better over here with the blue. And so I wonder if we do paint this one over a little bit more, if we'll see it more. Now in this one, the print is not, it's only showing a little bit. So get a little bit more light on these. So this is what printing and impressing and adding gesso to your page can do for your painting. It adds another dimension of texture, one that's pretty subtle. So if you want some texture but not too much, you can use these techniques. And I always love the idea of kind of having a hidden message in there. So having these subtle words in there kind of tickles my fancy. Here you can see this printed one actually came up better than the solid gesso one. So when I printed it there, it came out a lot better. So these are just some ideas of things you can play around with. I also use gesso for obliterating things, but that's a whole other lesson, which I'll look forward to sharing with you. But I'm really glad you came, and thank you, and I'll see you soon. And don't forget, if you're in New York, it's the Office of Assemblyperson Rodney's Bichotte at 1312 Flatbush Avenue, Wednesday the 15th from noon till 8. And actually, I'm sure any time in the next 3 months, if you go by her office, you'll be able to see them because there's lots of class there. Oh, and now you can see me again, and I can see you. And I'm so glad you came. And thanks for being here. And I'll see you next time. Bye.